Alrighty, everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. As always, before we get into any of the fun stuff, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth if you like it, and I know if you're an NBA fan today, you are going to like this show. And find us on socials, the Alex Cuesta Show, wherever you can find it. Today is Friday, April 15th, 2022, recording a little bit later than normal because David, my brother, who's always with me, has been a little under the weather. Dave, how are you feeling today?
Still under the weather, so I'm not going to talk as much, but better.
So that means we're going to have a really good show because David's input is not very valuable as it is.
Yes.
So the reason why we're here is because I do have somebody that's going to carry the show completely because he's one of the more talented dudes, a good friend of mine that it's now been, Scoop, it's been actually a few years since we've actually known each other. I've been podcasting for about 4 years, so probably right around that time that we've actually known each other. It's wild. That time flies.
When you're having fun.
When you are having fun. You just heard him. That is my man, Brandon Scoopy Robinson. I don't know where Brandon isn't right now. He's reporter, host, NBA insider over for Bally Sports Network and Stadium. You can find him on Spotify Live, formerly Spotify Green Room with Scoopy Sources on Thursdays. And he does a weekly Instagram live show from Bovada. So he's everywhere. If you're an NBA fan, you should be looking for him. Scoop, what's going on, brother?
I'm good. I've been on the road and have enjoyed traveling from different arenas, making things happen. I'm ready for the playoffs. I'm kind of glad that I have some downtime. I'm actually not traveling for the playoffs.
Hey.
I won't be traveling again until the finals, which is pretty cool. I actually have some downtime. I'm glad that, we're able to make it happen. We were supposed to make this happen the day before, but I was actually traveling home. So glad we were able to make it happen. Glad to see your bro. And hopefully we can get him to talk a little bit more.
I mean, yeah, he's usually a little bit, if we get him going, if we piss him off with something, he'll come in, he gets animated. So we might be able to say some stuff that might make him a little animated. We'll have some fun with that. Now, I want to say to you, Scoop, yesterday you let the world know it was 6 years. So for the Brandon the Scoopy Radio podcast,
yes.
How is that roller coaster been? Because you have had some amazing guests on that show. And for a guy that has no sources and no friends in the NBA, how have you pulled these people?
I contacted Make-A-Wish Foundation and I told them contacted Make-A-Wish. I contacted United Negro College Fund and I told them mine is a terrible thing to waste. And I told him I had alopecia and Make-A-Wish made it happen. That's how we got all those sympathy guests. My sarcasm has gotten worse over the years.
And that's a good thing because I think, what's funny? You've been less cynical on Twitter, battling trolls, and just more cynical in person. Like, it's just moved. It's not that it's changed. It's just moved because you're done with the Twitter trolls that are hounding your ass. And now you're here and you're just like, I'm just going to do it in person more often. So more people, it works. It works, man.
It's
it works.
Fun. You can't have the joy without the pain. You can't have the laughter without the crying. And I think, more personally, I lost my mom in February, and back in I tweeted this the other day. My mother told me in July that I was a world changer, and my pinned tweet on Twitter is a picture of my mom, and I, even though she's not here, before I tweet something dumb, I look at her face, and you could laugh and you could cry at the same time, but it's like, I have a higher calling than it just being about myself at this point in life, because there are people who depend on me. There's people who look up to me. There's people who count on me. And, I think that just on the grind up, even dating back to my childhood, she was a big part of that, putting me in different things and instilling time and instilling just morals and all those other things. And for me, I can't let her down. So I'm a little bit more choicier with my words. I still like to talk shit, but at the same time, like, it's a time and there's a place for everything, and you got to pick your spots,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Listen, I always love getting that text of a tweet that somebody said, and I'm just like, Scoop, ain't worth it. But man, ain't worth it.
Word.
No, it's always a good time when it comes to Scoop. And it is said when you start getting the haters, then you've done something right, because that means that these dudes are following they're your biggest fans. Haters are absolutely, when you have legitimate ones, they're your biggest fans because they're always looking for you to slip up. And, good. That means good. Let them keep looking. Let them keep finding it. So let's jump into some of the topics we have. We're going to talk some NBA playoffs heavy, but I want to get your opinion on this. So during the Charlotte-Atlanta game, Atlanta was busting the Hornets up. And Miles Bridges gets ejected, extremely heated. And as he's walking out, what was said is somebody said a racial slur to him. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but he got angry, took his mouthpiece out, threw it into the stands. I think he was intending to hit the person that said it, and it ended up knocking a young lady in the face. She took it like a champ. She barely flinched. But I don't know if he knew it happened at the time, because on Twitter, he retweeted somebody else with the video and said, somebody get me in contact with this young lady. That's unacceptable. And good on Miles Bridges. He obviously wants to make this right. He obviously wants to get in contact and apologize and, probably do some nice stuff. Give her some autographed stuff, maybe get her some more tickets in the future, whatever he wants to do. I want to address more, because Miles Bridges, that's a stand-up thing for a 20-something-year-old that's a millionaire to do. That's fantastic. You don't get that enough in the world of sports. But what I want to focus on is some of the comments. I'm not going to do specific things, but number one, all the people saying, hey, that's my niece, that's my sister, this is my Cash App, those people are just awful humans. And number two, all the stupid people that are like, why are you saying that's unacceptable? Like, you weren't the one that did it. It's like, can you not read English? He was obviously saying that his actions were unacceptable. So, I mean, Scoop, you have an experience with people being stupid on your comments. How do you think, if you're Miles Bridges and you're reading this, are you looking at the way you worded it going, is it me or are these people just stupid?
I'm going to tell you a brief story. So I heard everything you said. When I tweeted that thing about Kyrie Irving, I just didn't want to play last year, and I caught hell for it, even though I wasn't lying. Kendrick Perkins called me. He said, Scoop, I need you to do me a favor. He said, you're verified, I'm verified. I need you to go into the settings option and toggle where, so you know how like when you have your mentions, it's like all mentions. So there's a section when you're verified where you can only get comments from verified people. I don't know if y'all knew that. I don't want to assume.
Yeah. I knew that.
I'm giving you the edited version. What he said. He said, stop listening to them stupid people. And I didn't listen. I still see everything, but I tried for like a week and I was like, this is boring. I feel like that's what Bridges needs to do. Maybe he has done it. But I've learned that 240 characters on Twitter now? Or 280?
We'll see what happens if Elon Musk buys it. What's he going to do? But right now it's 240.
Everybody doesn't comprehend words the same way. And it's based off experience.
Yeah.
It's based off of region. It's based off of just dialect. It's a lot of factors. So the things that make common sense points to me may not be common sense points to other people. So I've learned over the last couple of years that just interpretation is a big thing. As it relates to the Cash App, I dealt with that the other day. So like I sent somebody a Cash App. Somebody asked me in my comments, yo, can you send me $5? I get paid Friday. And I sent them 10. And then when I sent 10 and I screenshotted it, people were sending me their Cash App. Send me some too. Like it's once you do one, everybody wants the same treatment. And hell no, go somewhere. So I think that's just, I feel like people have become overexposed because they have social media. Like every facet and aspect of your life is in front of you. And maybe I would have turned my comments off on that post, but I don't think he thought it would be that big of a deal. He did get fined heavily for it, but
yeah.
At the end of the day, it still is America. And folks are still very much not housebroken post the height of the pandemic. And I also think that social media makes people overly familiar with people who are not on their level.
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff that you wouldn't say to your dad, you wouldn't say to your sister, maybe you shouldn't say it to somebody else. And I'm not even talking like athlete or celebrity, just like the golden rule is to treat people the way you want to be treated. Because I feel like today's celebrity is different because today's celebrity is still out and about and can be touched. So it's on there. It would behoove them to act accordingly because social media can put your location out there. So I just think in this instance, I don't know him personally, but I want to take his word for it that it was an accident and he moves on and he learns from it.
Yeah, Dave, I want to get your opinion kind of on, less of the incident and more on the aftermath. Like if you read that tweet, like somebody get me this young lady's contact info, that's unacceptable. Do you feel like he's blaming her, or is that just pretty obvious that he's saying like, my bad, let me make up for this? Like people were just, I don't know if they were just being trolls, but I give me your take on that.
Well, first off, Twitter is just meant for dunking on people. So obviously you have people always wanting to troll and try to dunk on someone, but you're only getting it in a way that he's not trying to help her and that he felt like, even if he didn't mean to like, I obviously didn't mean to throw it at her, but he didn't mean, even if he didn't like want that to happen, he still felt it was unacceptable and he shouldn't have done it. And he wanted to get in contact with her. You're only not reading that if you're reading it in bad faith. But that's just if they're being serious about what they're saying. On Twitter, honestly, I don't think many people are being serious about what they're saying at all. I think, Miles, listen, it's a blowout loss and you're having a bad time. I don't even know what some of the fans have said. Obviously, people are going to get emotional in that stage. It's going to happen. And the thing is, it's not even the action, not good. I mean, it's not the worst thing he could have done, but still not good. But what happens is what needs to be understood is not the action, but what is your reaction to what you did? Like, did you, he knows wasn't exactly acceptable. She shouldn't have been hit by my mouthpiece. I want to help her in some way, but it also wasn't the worst thing he could have done.
I don't know. It is the worst thing he could have done, Dave. The day and age of COVID, he just threw saliva at a girl. He needs to go to jail for that. No, and like Scoop said, the celebrity has definitely changed because back in the day, a celebrity could say something. There was no social media. So all you were doing was waiting for the next reporter maybe to confront that celebrity or something like that. Now you jump right on and either they have an IG, either they have a Twitter, or they might have a Facebook page where you could just go at them however you want. And it's a little ridiculous, but no, I just wanted to get your guys' opinions, especially you, Scoop, who has, a good share of the old deal with some dummies on Twitter. So
Instagram too.
I don't use Instagram as much.
Somebody commented under my last post and was like, look at your tight ass pants. And I was like, but then I commented, I said, they're comfortable. Like, it's a post I signed with a talent agency, everything is congratulations. That's what's up. Cool. Good job. It's that one. The tight ass pants. He said tight ass jeans. The crazy thing is they're jeans. They look like jeans, but they're actually sweatpants like jeans. They got a drawstring and everything. They're joggers, right? So they're sweatpants. And he's like tight ass pants. Then I was like, but they're comfy. He goes, was that rip supposed to be on there? I'm like, damn. Like, I can't say, I want to say, why are you looking at my genitals? Because that's where the mark was. I can't say that. And you know what I wanted to say if I was offline? Why are you looking at but like, that's the world we live in where everything is open. I'm like, bro, that's a patch. He ain't say nothing. I just delete the comment. Cause like, yo, why am I arguing with you? But it's like people look for everything to say. But this is what you have to realize. Everybody ain't happy, and everybody ain't happy for you, and everybody ain't for you. And I think that this moment with him and the mouthpiece is more along the lines of, like I said, everybody's not on the same level. you're a professional ball player. You play for the Charlotte Hornets. Yeah, in that moment, you did what you did. And this is kind of like, I think we've been seeing that in society right now with Will Smith and Chris Rock. Like, I understood what Will was doing. As a husband, he felt that he needed to do what he needed to do to defend his wife. But as a professional, he kind of dropped the ball a bit. And it wasn't even really about Chris Rock. It was about all them people who were trolling him. Like, social media is really dictating how people move. And you got to kind of take breaks from it sometimes because it's a lot. And I think that like the fact that this is the opening of your show is kind of just how far social media is going. We've gone from MySpace to Facebook to Twitter to Instagram to TikTok and just everybody having an opinion on something. And I think that's kind of the worst thing that has happened with social media. Everybody has an opinion. We didn't ask you.
I mean, my dumb ass has a podcast and no one asked me for anything that I got to say. So, but no. Cool. Thanks, Coop. We need to bring back MySpace, though. Let's just get people fighting over their top 5 and everyone be able to like put their song on there and be happy. That's all it is.
I want to know what Tom is doing now.
Tom is sitting on millions of dollars, just chilling, looking at all these other social media websites and going, man, they can all go to hell. I'm rich. So
pretty much.
Let's jump into the playoffs because I need you to drop your insider knowledge like you always do about all this good stuff going on. So let's start in the Western Conference. The play-ins are happening tonight. I really don't want to address the play-ins too much because I think the Clippers are doomed without Paul George. They're playing an upstart Pelicans team that, Brandon Ingram, if he is dunking on people like he was against San Antonio, then the world, I mean, he's putting people on notice right there. That's a good group, especially with McCollum playing over there. So I think the Pelicans move on, but regardless of who moves on, they're seeing Phoenix. Does Phoenix get a challenge from either of these teams in that first round matchup?
Yes, the Pelicans. I spent time in Phoenix with the Pelicans and the Suns back in February. And I learned a lot about the Pelicans. I've been reporting a lot about the Pelicans over the past year. Yep. And what they're doing. And some of those folks within the front office I know, assistant coach I know, Willie Green I watched when I was in college in Philly. But I learned a lot about their infrastructure. Bless you, sir. I saw you sneezed on mute.
Calling David out.
I think that the CJ McCollum addition really solidified their future because Willie Green has shared with me how much he wants to create a program where people want to come there. If you look at the Pelicans over the years, I told you about the Anthony Davis thing before it happened. Mm-hmm. People were leaving New Orleans. You look at Anthony Davis. You look at Lonzo Ball. You look at Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday won a championship. Anthony Davis won a championship. Lonzo Ball is in a championship-esque situation. I'll say a team that competes in the Eastern Conference. I'm not calling the Bulls a champion, but I think that when you look at how the Pelicans have cleaned up their roster, you got a Brandon Ingram who wants to be there. You have a CJ McCollum who wants to be there. And it really, I think CJ set the tone from the beginning. He told me a month or so ago about how after the All-Star break, he, Brandon Ingram, and Willie Green went out to eat for like this 5-course meal. It was decadent. Like Brandon Ingram told me about the sherbet they had. CJ said his only weakness with food is French fries. And I forgot what Willie Green said he had, but they set the tone from the All-Star break and they just worked and they chopped away. Now I watched the Pelicans in Phoenix beat the Suns without Chris Paul, who was hurt at the time. So some people might say Scoop is crazy, but the fact that the Pelicans weren't even in the conversation at the beginning of the season because everybody was worrying about Zion Williamson and they stuck it out. We're now in a 0-0 record placeholder. I don't think the Pelicans can beat the Suns, but I do think it could be a competitive ass series.
So, Dave, jump in whenever you have something if you want to have an opinion. But I'm going to scoop. Now, they made the move for CJ McCollum and Zion. There's been grumbles about them moving on from Zion already, which wouldn't surprise me because he has been injured. And, I'm not going to call him a bust because I still think the guy has immense talent and we'll see. But does getting CJ McCollum an actual, I'm willing to put CJ on that lower tier superstar level. He's right there. He's a superstar. Does he make it a little bit easier if they want to get rid of Zion? Because they now have two young guys, a superstar and a very good player, a star in Brandon Ingram to build around and maybe get somebody else. Because I think if I'm another young potential superstar, not happy where I am, I'm going to join up with those two and ball out.
I think the Pelicans are in such a good situation without him that when he comes back, he's an added piece. I think I think that Zion and Ben Simmons are in both a very interesting situation for their respective team. Both of their teams are going to the playoffs, and their teams are still competitive without them. The difference between Simmons and Zion is you've seen Simmons in the playoffs. He's a multiple-time All-Star.
Yeah.
And you know that the addition that he brings to the Brooklyn Nets is the defensive perspective, and the primary ball handler perspective can still draw double teams. I think the issue with Zion is we're still figuring out what Zion does. And I remember back when I was at heavy.com, I had Jay Williams on my Heavy Live with Scoopy show, and he made he talked about another player, and I related to where we are now with Zion. He talked about Lonzo Ball, and he felt that we needed to re-examine our expectations for Lonzo Ball. People were saying Jason Kidd. People were comparing him to this, kind of giving him this LeBron-esque type of player, impact player. And then once he kind of settled into New Orleans, you realize he was a good defender. He played well alongside Drew Holiday. He could shoot the three ball at a high clip. And then he comes to Chicago, and you saw those things early on. And then, you had the luxury of not having to trade Kobe White at the trade deadline, and you kept him, and that's kind of helped the Bulls stay intact. But the point I'm making is you have to retemper expectations for Zion. In the same way people were saying he was the next LeBron. I never agree with it, because I just feel like they're different body types. And I looked at Zion as more of like a Sean Kemp or a Rodney Rogers or Charles Barkley. And I just think he's in the wrong era. Like, I think Zion would have flourished in the 90s. I think we're still figuring out Zion. And I think that the book is still being written. So I think, I don't know if I totally answered your question, but in my mind I did. I feel like we're still figuring out who Zion is and where he fits. And I've always felt that it was more Brandon Ingram's team than it was Zion's anyway. All
right. So you got Phoenix going on there, but the Pelicans are going to be pesky. That's what I got out of that. They're going to be a pesky Pelicans.
Go 5-6 games.
Okay. That's actually pretty good for a team that's, not on Phoenix's level. We're just going to be real there.
And I'm looking forward to seeing Jose Alvarado playing defense on Chris Paul, assuming that they go, that they play them.
Oh, they're going to scrap. They're going to definitely scrap, or getting as close to scrapping as possible, because they're both scrappy dudes. Mm-hmm. We're going to jump right over into the 4-5 matchup. It's an intriguing one. We have Dallas, we have Utah, Mavericks, Jazz. Now, Luka Doncic is not healthy. One of the best players in the NBA, and he isn't healthy. And when he's not healthy, Dallas might have some problems. And Utah is coming in, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. It's a really annoying thing right now, because whenever you talk about Utah and Gobert and Mitchell, they always bring up the spat that they had at the beginning of COVID with Gobert, and they are constantly having to squash that. I can't imagine that that's not getting to both of those guys saying, hey, we're good. And you can see they still have very good chemistry on the court together. It's not like their play is suffering on the court. What do you got in that 4-5 matchup, Scoop? Who comes out of there? I think it's one of the better matchups. If Luka can come back and play like Luka, it's going to be really good. If Luka's really hampered, then I think this might be a quick matchup for Utah.
I think that folks aren't giving Spencer Dinwiddie enough credit. And I think that Spencer, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and Spencer is immensely excited to be playing NBA basketball at this point of the year. So he's been playing basketball since he was 4 years old, and to be in this situation, this is what you hope for. And he said, we're not the odds-on favorite, but at the same time, we have something to compete with. And I think, when you look at the Utah Jazz over the years, people have looked at them as fool's gold. And spent some time with the Utah Jazz this season, and I asked Rudy Gobert the difference between last year and this year, and he said he feels like they're more healthier, and there's just a level of focus that they have this year that's a little bit different. So you take him at his word. I think that this Utah Dallas matchup is going to be a cool matchup. But I find that in spending time with the Wizards this season, while I talk about Spencer Dinwiddie and his situation being traded for Porzingis, I wonder if this is the series where Dallas will actually miss Porzingis without Luka.
Yeah.
Because I think that the Mavs have done so well all year, depending on Luka. I've watched I've watched just about every top tier team live this season, and the thing about Dallas that stands out to me more than any other team, they really depend solely on Luka, and it's like, if not Luka, then who?
It's gonna be tough.
I guess the comparison could be made about Embiid before Harden came, but Harden's here. You know, when I look at Dallas, like,
it's got to be Spencer. It's got to be Jaylen Brunson. Brunson and Spencer really got to step up.
Brunson is an intelligent basketball player, but he's not Luka Doncic.
No shot. No.
Spencer, to me, is an explosive guard. And I'll be honest with you, at times in Kyrie's first season in Brooklyn, it was a breath of fresh air when Kai was out to see how well Dinwiddie played when they were playing for nothing.
Yep.
And I look at this opportunity with Dinwiddie, and this is the time for him to shine in a different way. So I hope to see that from him. But here's the other portion. Dinwiddie ain't Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is Donovan Mitchell.
A bad man.
Jordan Clarkson is they just have a good team, and I enjoy watching them. And I really feel like, you know, even from a perspective of Mike Conley Jr., like last year he was stagnant in the playoffs at times, and now he's healthy. Like I want to see him do well. So I think I like Utah in this matchup if Mitchell doesn't come back, but I do think that Dinwiddie is going to play well.
All right. So yeah, that's a good matchup. Fun fact about David there. David has a pair of Dinwiddies. He went out and he got them because, you know, especially we were huge fans when Spencer was on Brooklyn. You know that we lost Spencer Dinwiddie, and I'm still rooting for him to do well. And man, if we can get, honestly, they can get some Dinwiddie heroics. If Luka's struggling and they start playing through Dinwiddie, anything can happen because that man makes things happen. He's a guy. He has the capability. He can average 30 a game in the playoffs. Like, there is no doubt in my mind Spencer Dinwiddie can do that. Mm-hmm. But they're going to have to let him go. But yeah, I like Utah here. Maybe David at one point can show people his Dinwiddies. We can get that up on we'll have him wear the kicks. We'll have him do a fashion show, and we'll get that up on the social media there. So let's keep going. We got Golden State 3 seed. We got Denver 6 seed. Intriguing considering that probably I think Jokic is going to win the MVP. We had some really interesting comments by Markel Fultz today about how the NBA just doesn't want to validate the process, and that's why Embiid isn't going to get it. It's interesting. I think it's a toss-up of who gets it. I think Jokic making history with his numbers this year kind of push him, but that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the matchup. Clay is playing like Clay again. Draymond's the glue guy. I don't know is Curry back yet for this matchup, or will he be back coming next matchup? I don't know, but you have that knowledge because you have all NBA knowledge. Who you got coming out of this Golden State Denver matchup? You give me that face.
I did a preview show on it the other day, and I'm trying to remember what I said. I think that, first of all, I do like what Markel Fultz did say about the conspiracy because, and obviously he had a front row seat to watching Joel Embiid during his beginning of his career with the Philadelphia 76ers. I do think Embiid deserves the MVP, but I think Jokic impresses certain people because he's done it without Jamal Murray. And I look at Denver and I look at the Clippers in amazement and how they were able to function without one or two superstars throughout the whole season. Yeah. Jokic, to me, I know I made mention of the fact that Luka Doncic does it nightly by himself, but I'd be remiss if I didn't kind of amend that comment some, because I feel like Jokic literally leads the team probably in points, rebounds, assists, and he sells tickets too.
Yep.
He works security. He works the concession stand. I look at this Nuggets team and I'm impressed. But I still think without Steph Curry, the Golden State Warriors can still win. Because you've seen the Warriors be successful without Klay Thompson at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And Klay and Steph mean so much to their team. The person that I'm most concerned about is Draymond. And Dre shared with me recently, he said, this is the hardest injury to come back with. It's not like it's like ligaments. It's, you're like, it's been difficult. And I look at Draymond as that heart and soul of that team, and they need him. And their focus in getting right, it's interesting to watch because you saw them be a top tier team and win those championships. And I feel like over the last couple of years, they've watched the Lakers win it. They've watched the Bucks win it. They've watched the Raptors win it. And it's like the band has gotten back together again with Iguodala there. And it's like, okay, now what? And I feel like these teams are getting younger and they don't fear these veteran teams.
Yep. Like the Grizzlies don't fear the Lakers. The Grizzlies, and rightly so, because the Grizzlies are in the playoffs and the Lakers are not. But they don't fear the game's best player in LeBron James. You look at the Nuggets, and I feel like the Nuggets have gotten better every year. So, like, if they did beat the Warriors, I wouldn't be surprised because they got used to winning or compete without Jamal Murray. And then what if he does come back? Like I said this at the beginning of the season. I said if Jamal Murray comes back, the Nuggets have this was before the season started. I said I feel like the Nuggets have a chance to make it to the finals. I can agree to that. Yeah. And
they've done it without Murray.
Yep.
So I feel like anything's possible. I like the Warriors. I like their spirit. But I still don't count them out because I think they've done it throughout the course of the season without certain players, and they've still gotten it together.
Yeah, Golden State's going to have to move the basketball. That's one thing about Golden State. And then one thing that Steve Kerr has done real well there is on offense, more than any other team that I've seen, they move the basketball around. Unless it's, Klay with the walk-up three, Steph with the walk-up three, and they've earned the right to be able to just walk up and shoot threes. But when they're moving the basketball, especially when they get it down to the block to Dre, and Dre's kind of running the offense from the block or even the high post, they're a dangerous team. And then they have to play defense. But if you look at Denver is going to beat their ass down low. Between Jokic, Gordon, JaMychal Green, and Boogie Cousins, they are going to give Draymond and Looney and Otto Porter fits down low. That's where they're going to have to make their money in Denver. And then, kick it out to Monty Morris, Will Barton. They have capable guys on the outside, but I really think it's down low and that's been their game plan all year with Denver. And then also they have a good amount of defensive-minded people. Will Barton is a good defensive-minded guard. Jokic is a good defender down there. So I tend to lean Denver in this matchup, which I think might surprise people because I like Golden State. Golden State's been my secondary team during the Jason Richardson era when they had Thunderman holding the Thunderbolt. I always just liked their logo, and I always rooted for them as my Western Conference team. But I just think you're going to see some old school basketball here. And unless, Golden State moves the basketball and rains threes, I got Denver in 6 or 7. So that's where I'm going there. It's going to be a good one. It's not my favorite matchup, but it's going to be a good one. This next matchup, Scoop, might be one of my favorite matchups because these two teams are going to fly up and down the court, whether it's 4 games or 7 games. Memphis and Minnesota, the Grizz and the T-Wolves. Man, am I happy for D'Angelo Russell. Man, am I pumped for D'Lo, the man that made the Brooklyn Nets possible. D'Angelo Russell, the team that has my favorite Nets, all thanks to D'Lo and Kenny Atkinson. But watching D'Lo drop 29 in a game where Karl Anthony Towns struggled to beat double teams was a beautiful thing. I don't think they have the horses to beat Memphis. Pat Bev versus Ja Morant is going to be unbelievably fun to watch. But what do you got here? Because this game to me is just going to have so much energy and so much back and forth. It's going to be tension in the arena for every single game.
So before I begin, you know what I'm going to say?
I don't know nothing.
The Timberwolves are busy.
They are busy. That has been maybe the quote of all tweets. T-Wolves are busy. The day starts and ends with the T-Wolves being busy with Scoop.
The Timberwolves are busy, and I am going to tweet that all playoffs. Specifically to your question, I believe that the Memphis Grizzlies, bar none, have been a professional organization on and off the floor, and I really, really admire their head coach, Taylor Jenkins. And it's interesting to many people when I bring this up, just as a matter of perspective. So I spent some time with the Grizzlies back in January, and I asked Taylor Jenkins, what was your favorite video game growing up? And he said Atari Jaguar. And I said, damn. And that's significant for this reason. So he and LeBron James are the same age. They're both 37 years old. And you don't hear Greg Popovich talking about Atari Jaguar. I've never asked Steve Kerr his preference in video games. But what I can tell you is I am a fan and I am a proponent of just youth movement basketball. I think for many years, like we talked about LeBron, we talked about Kawhi, we talked about Popovich, we've talked about the Warriors. To see somebody else get in it and be successful, it's pretty neat. And I think that when I look at the Grizzlies, the fact that not just the fact that they're winning, but they've won without their star player just shows their level of cohesiveness with or without Ja Morant. And that's honestly going to carry them throughout the playoffs and beyond. I mean, Dylan Brooks sat out for some time. Jaren Jackson Jr., arguably a potential league defensive player of the year candidate, has done well throughout the course of the season. But you have Desmond Bane, who's been good defensively for that team. There's so many facets to Taylor Jenkins' youth himself and the youth that is his team. And I applaud that. And, to kind of put it more into perspective and tie it with a bow, he was a grad assistant at UPenn. And I asked him, what were his fond memories of the Philadelphia 76ers when he was a grad assistant? And he told me that it really hit him when he was an assistant with the Atlanta Hawks and Kyle Korver was there. And he shared some of his memories of Philly in the playoffs with Andre Iguodala and Allen Iverson and Kyle Korver and others on that team. And it's like, he's not that far removed, and, he's with it and he's here for a while. So yep. I kind of look at him like he's on a Frank Vogel fast track. I remember when everybody was Google Gaga over Vogel when he was an assistant with the Pacers, and his non-traditional route being at a D3 school and more. So I like the Memphis Grizzlies as a team, as an organization, but don't get it twisted. The Minnesota Timberwolves are busy, and they've done it because of the three-headed monster that is Anthony Edwards, that is D'Angelo Russell, and that is Karl Anthony Towns. And at the time of this recording, I want to acknowledge this. 2 years ago today, Jackie Cruz Towns did unfortunately pass away to COVID-19. Yep. I know the Towns family well, and I want to acknowledge her as an individual. I knew her. Very nice lady, very supportive. And it's cool to see Towns kind of rebound. And there's a reason why the Timberwolves did not trade Anthony Edwards. And part of the reason why I kept tweeting Timberwolves were busy is because, the main reason why is because they were really looking to add Ben Simmons to their roster, and they weren't willing to part with Anthony Edwards. So I kind of just stuck with it. But Anthony Edwards, I think he scored close to 50, if not 50, about a week ago. I really like his progression. I like that D'Angelo Russell is in this position that he's in, and I like Pat Beverly's intensity. And I feel like when I look at Pat Beverly as the vet on that team, I look at him as everything from a leadership perspective that people thought Jimmy Butler would be, but I'm glad that Jimmy Butler got his own team.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. So my two X factors are the fact that Memphis has the most feared man in basketball in Steven Adams because nobody messes with Steven Adams, and he looks like the nicest guy on the planet. But when you see him just pick up Tony Bradley like he's a small child, and Tony Bradley's not a punk. Tony Bradley is no punk. And Tony Bradley doesn't even look at Steven Adams because he knows it's Steven Adams picking him up. That's when you know, like, nobody messes with him. And then also on the other side, a little more serious note, Malik Beasley coming back. And I think he's going to be very important if the Timberwolves want to stay in this, because you have your big three-headed monster, but when they need a big shot, you saw it at the end of the play-in game. Malik Beasley hit a very big three when they were starting that rally and coming back in the mid-rally. He has the faith and the trust in himself to be a guy, because at one point Malik Beasley was a big part of the future here and was a big member and a big cog. So I think he's going to be a big factor here. But ultimately, Minnesota's busy, but Memphis is going to win this series. I can't see Ja Morant being denied right now. That's just me. I think Ja Morant, and I said it back when the draft happened and everyone was going gaga over Zion. It's a guard-driven league, and Ja Morant was going to have a better career. I think I said it to you. I think we did a show, Scoop, years ago when they were getting drafted. I said he is going to have a better career, not based off of talent alone, but because it's a guard-driven league. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Zion's been hurt. Fortunately for Ja, he's been healthy. But, man, he's being talked about as one of the best point guards in the game, as he should, because he's playing really well. So I got Memphis there. Dave, before we jump into the Eastern Conference, what do you just have as a quick we'll get your voice in here, a quick bow to wrap this up on the Western Conference? You agree, disagree, anything that we said? Have anything to add? Or you just want to continue to be useless? What are you doing there?
I mean, for me, you know me, I've always been a big Ja fan, especially coming out of college. I just love it. You know, Alex, you know, I love anyone that reminds me of anything of like the athleticism and the and the dribbling of Allen Iverson, because that's my favorite player ever. And Ja Morant reminds me in some turn of that. Kyrie reminds me more. I know I've said this before with you, but Ja Morant reminds me in some turn of that. And I just love the way Ja Morant plays, the intensity. He also has like the Russell Westbrook in him, for me at least. So, I mean, I would love to watch Memphis do a lot of big things. And like Scoop said, you'd love to see a younger team go and just take the bull by the horns, especially in the Western Conference. I mean, now not as vaunted as it used to be, but still it's a vaunted Western Conference, still damn good.
And if Memphis ends up playing the Bulls in the finals, you can actually say, take the bull by the horns. Now, overall, you do a little MMA, Dave. Would you fight Steven Adams?
No.
That's Steven Adams. He said he'd fight you. He said he'd beat your ass.
No.
Scoop, talk to Steven Adams and tell him to rough my brother up. Tell him to fly him out there and beat up David.
Alex, I don't have any sources. So I can't ask him nothing.
Yeah, Scoop has no sources. I was here spending time with this team. I was talking to this guy, but it's actually all in my head. Scoop has gotten everywhere he is because he's talking to all these dudes in his head.
I'm a crazy mofo then.
But all right, anything else for the West, Dave? Any of the other matchups? Phoenix, Dallas, Utah, Golden State, Denver. Anything else from any of those?
Not entirely. It's weird not seeing the Lakers in there. I know there's a lot of stuff happened with the Lakers during the year, and I know maybe I shouldn't mention them because we're talking about the playoffs and we should be talking about the other teams, but you guys did talk about them a lot. Yeah. So I just wanted to say it is weird not seeing them there, but it is interesting just watching that go down. And now, I mean, I know some things might be up in the air for LeBron, especially with Bronny ever so closely inching towards the NBA. So we'll see. The future is always up in the air.
So, Scoop, before we jump to the Eastern Conference, I just have to get your opinion on this. Would Kobe, would Michael, would Allen Iverson, would any other of the all-time greats sat out of basically an elimination game in the final game of the season, like LeBron sat out with an ankle injury? Or would they have wrapped that shit up, taken painkillers, and go to play?
I hate those questions because they played in a different era. And
LeBron kind of played at the end of that era, though, when he first jumped in, though. When he first jumped in the league, he was kind of at the end of that rough and tumble era. They didn't start doing the hand checking as getting rid of hand checking and as many superstar calls.
Now LeBron is also 37.
He is.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say, to be fair, I think at that time, 100% he would have. Right now, like Scoop said, he's an old man. Plus, like, he just, like, listen, the rest of the team does have to show up at time. He's still putting up record numbers at that age. Sometimes the rest of the team also needs to pick up a little bit.
Yep. Go ahead. Did that sum it up, Scoop?
Yeah, I just think I think I never looked at LeBron like Michael, though. Everybody else does. I've always looked at LeBron as LeBron. And if I could make a comparison to anybody, I'd compare LeBron to Magic Johnson with a better jumper and the body of work to go with it. I've always looked at Michael and Kobe as neck and neck. But I think it's the distance between Kobe's death and LeBron's ending and likely him leaving on his own terms. Kobe's not here to speak for himself, so the noise is only going to get brighter or louder, rather. So I think they're going to make LeBron and Michael be neck and neck. But the thing that I hate about those comparisons is that when I feel like when Michael was playing, those comparisons weren't as loud. We also didn't have social media and everybody having a voice, but two, we just enjoyed the game. And I'd be remiss if I didn't. I'll tell you, this is so eerily interesting. The day before Kobe passed, I was at the Lakers Sixers game in Philly when LeBron broke Kobe's record. And I was in the Lakers locker room and just soaked it all in. And Kuzma, I asked him on record in an interview, I said, yo, you were drafted, I believe, by Magic. You were in that front office with him. Your teammates with LeBron. You knew Kobe. You probably watched Michael play for the Wizards, and you watched his Bulls time in on YouTube. Do you do the comparison thing? And he said, no, because I like to just enjoy the moment. And I like the fact that my locker is by LeBron's. I like the fact that I played for the Lakers at the time and Kobe, was Kobe. And I like the fact that I can learn game from Magic. And the next day Kobe passed and I bumped into Kuz maybe like 2-3 weeks later in Chicago at All-Star Weekend. We were at a gifting suite, Mitchell Ness gifting suite. And I said, yo, he goes, I know. He goes, that shit is crazy, isn't it? He was like thinking about it because I wrote about it and all other stuff. And it's like you sit and you think about it. I think we do so much. I think talking head television, the Skip Baylesses and Stephen A. Smiths of the world, they've made their money, no hate. But it makes people think you have to compare somebody or somebody is better than somebody and just enjoy the process.
Yeah. And to put the caveat out there, I have been a LeBron fan. I've always defended LeBron and all, I like LeBron a lot.
Right.
I am disappointed he didn't go out there, though. I wanted to see him out there in an elimination game. But to David's point, you have AD, you have Russ. There's no reason why you should not win that game anyway. And I get it. They were playing Phoenix. Phoenix is a great team. But if you're a great team and you guys are championship players, AD still wants to be in that top 5 player debate, which he should be talent-wise. They should have at least been more competitive than they were in that Phoenix game.
The Lakers had a lot of internal problems. I have a talent agent now, and Frank Vogel and I are represented by the same agent. So, and I'm trying to get him on my show, so I'm gonna be careful what I say. But what I will say is this: they stopped responding to him, and I'll leave it like that. Also, the Lakers were doomed from the beginning. The way folks within the organization have shared it with me, because they've dealt with COVID, they've dealt with injuries. Even before Kendrick Nunn never stepped foot on the court. Trevor Ariza was hurt before the season started. Then they cut him to make room for that two-way player. And Anthony Davis, if he wasn't hurt, LeBron was hurt, and vice versa. And I feel like from folks that I know within the Lakers organization, they've just shared with me that they've really taken inventory of the future, particularly in Wayne and Gabriel. and others like DJ Augustine, the number 15. I can't think of his name, and I don't want to call him the white boy.
Austin Reeves, is that his name? Austin Reeves?
Yes. Like folks that
you can call him the white boy. He probably is used to it by now. I said you can call him the white boy. He's probably used to it by now.
Nah, I want to be respectful, but I definitely think that they've taken notes on the future in that regard, and I think that at a point they kind of just accept. And I'll go far back as like January, like
wow,
folks that I talked to just was like, Scoot, we going through the motions. Scoot, we're this is where we are. We gotta play through it, but ultimately. I just think that the other factors where I know that people make a big thing about Russ and LeBron and who's the primary ball handler and stuff, but I think that the coaching philosophy was a thing of contention also, and I think a lot of it. I think for the Lakers to be successful with AD and LeBron still there, they need a player's coach, meaning a Doc Rivers type. I just think that's like a Vogel wasn't a fit, but I feel like he wasn't a fit because I think he exceeded expectations in year one. Like the other factor that he had is that in year one, he had a good assistant coaching staff alongside of him. And now Jason Kidd is gone. Lionel Hollins gone. Jared Dudley, who was a player and then transitioned to a coach, gone. I saw Jared a couple weeks ago, and I said, man, you look real happy right now. He goes, I know. I just think that Lakers team, from the start, it really started after year one. Year one, they had the perfect storm. And you lost Rondo, who ended up coming back. You couldn't afford to bring Dwight Howard back, and then you brought in Montrez. That was never a fit. You just you gave up defense and speed. DeAndre Jordan was supposed to replace
Drummond.
Drummond fits on a Brooklyn or a Philly more than he fit LA, and he and Vogel didn't get along. So it was a lot stuff we could talk about off here, but it's just a lot that went on.
Yeah, and I don't know if he fits, but I'm pushing for Kenny Atkinson because I'm again another guy I'm forever grateful, but I don't know if his style fits with superstars, which I think is the main reason why KA was out of the Nets.
I think Kenny Atkinson would fit in Sacramento.
Certainly would. Yep, he's a good developmental coach, and I hope for his sake one day he can adjust his acumen a little bit so that he won't be only looked at as a good player developmental coach and get teams to the promised land of being legitimate, and then they dump him for a guy who's better with superstars or veterans. I just hope for success for KA. So go ahead, Scoop.
I was gonna say I actually met Kenny Atkinson in person a few weeks ago, and we met in the press before we met in person. And I'll just say that after sitting down and talking with him and just getting to know him, his demeanor, and us staying in touch, I think he's a fit in Sacramento because, like you said, he's good at establishing talent. And I think that what you saw him do, I've been trying to find a way to weave this word, and I'm just going to say it after I sneeze. Excuse me.
God bless you.
Kenny Atkinson found a way to ramp up talent. I said it, ramp. He found a way to ramp up talent and gather guys and give them something to play for. The D'Angelo Russell experiment, I think he exceeded expectations in Brooklyn. Yep. But unfortunately, when you bring in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, it's a whole new ball game. I like Kenny in Sacramento for this reason. I believe that if Sacramento brings in Kenny Atkinson into the fold, he will have the same success that Willie Green is having in New Orleans right now. And the key word is developing a tradition or developing a program. And Kenny Atkinson has a track record of doing that.
So you ready for this good transition, Scoop? I'm going to prove my worth as a host. There are very few Eric Spoelstras that can actually be young and coach up good talent like he did with LeBron and then hang around and prove that he's a great coach. because we're going to jump right to the Eastern Conference. Haha, see what I did there? The number one Miami Heat playing whoever wins in the play-in between Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks and the returning Jared Allen, Garland over in Cleveland. Here's the thing here, Scoop. Atlanta, I think, gives Miami problems because Trae Young is a superstar. I don't see Cleveland giving Miami as many problems. Ultimately, I see Miami winning it because that is a gritty, good-ass team in Miami. What do you think about that matchup with Miami and whoever they play?
I like Miami. I'm just not as sold on Miami as I am Philly, as I am Milwaukee. I like Miami. I like the fact that they brought in Kyle Lowry. And I think any team that you build, you need a point guard and a center and a swingman, and they have that. I like the way Tyler Hero was playing this season also.
How important is Oladipo coming back to form for them? If he can come back to form, he had a big game. He had a few big games late in the season. What can he be there? Because he's obviously, it goes through Jimmy, it goes through Bam, it goes through Lowry first. It even goes through Tyler Hero first. Oladipo is now the fifth option, which I don't think he's used to. But how important can he be for this Miami team going forward?
I mean, this is a guy that's wanted to be on this team since the bubble, and he found his way via trade in Houston, but has not really – you haven't really heard his name be just talked about the way it was before. But, I mean, he said he has said that he'll be ready if his number is called. I hope that's the case. Because, behind the scenes, Miami has pushed to get him hard. But ultimately, I think it's going to be a situation like when you look at the playoffs, you're an injury away from being a star. And I think when you look at, and I'm not wishing ill will on anyone, but I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you looked at, what was it? The Bucks last year when DiVincenzo was it DiVincenzo that got hurt? Yeah. And then was it Bryn Forbes, whose name was called?
Yeah, and Forbes came up big.
It could be one of those situations. So I have no intel on it, but I do just think that Oladipo, if you rewind the tape, like I think the portion that kind of just looks interesting in retrospect is just where folks who played for that Pacers team a few years ago are now. They were so busy trying to get rid of Nate McMillan. He ended up almost going to the NBA Finals as an interim head coach, replacing Lloyd Pierce. You look at Victor Oladipo, who, I can tell you, he and McMillan had a very interesting relationship, and Oladipo wanted out. A lot of it had to do with the team owner. And I just look at where they now. I'd kind of like to see a redemptive story for Oladipo. But like I said, I like the Heat, but I think if they play Brooklyn in a 7-game series, I think Brooklyn can beat them. I also think Philly can beat them, and I know that Milwaukee can beat them. Chicago to me, I think would be a better matchup for a Miami team.
Ultimately, Miami makes it out of the first round, though, regardless if it's Atlanta or Cleveland. Is that what you think that, or which one gives them a fit?
I think Atlanta can beat them too.
Wow.
I think Atlanta. I think. Listen, you saw the movie He Got Game?
Yeah, of course I did. What do you think of this?
Listen, we're the rail splitters, and y'all ain't fucking with us. I think Atlanta can beat Miami, and I think that when you look at Atlanta and when you look at Charlotte, I feel like they both were sputtering out of control in the loss column, and Atlanta shouldn't have been in that position. I feel like Atlanta should have been in that position last year, and they got a reprieve by playing the New York Knicks in the first round, and they beat them. And I think that I could see a repeat of the same thing happening in the playoffs this year. I think Atlanta can beat Miami.
That's interesting, and I love that take. And I do think, too, because I think Trae Young has established himself as a legitimate superstar, and there aren't that many to go around in the NBA. So I think that they have that, and obviously Jimmy Butler is the guy over there with Bam Adebayo. But, man, Bam and Clint Capella are going to be whooping each other's ass, so it's going to be between Jimmy and Trae. So it's going to be fun. That one's going to be fun going on over there. Let's jump into the next matchup. Another really good matchup, potential MVP, Joel Embiid, James Harden. Philadelphia 76ers going up against a Toronto team who, I don't know if anyone thought that they would actually be where they are now. Losing Kyle Lowry was kind of the heart and soul of that team. DeMar DeRozan departing a few years ago. There's no more Kawhi. He was there and gone. But Siakam, Van Vliet, guys like Gary Trent Jr., they balled out this year. They played well. How do you feel? How does that matchup go down? We've seen, being a Brooklyn Nets fan, and I think Philadelphia 76ers fans, if you look on their Twitter, they kind of pull their hairs out with James Harden. I think the Brooklyn Nets did a little bit too, where he has a certain nights where, he still fills up the stat sheet, but it'll be 14, 10, and 8. It won't be what you want it to be, where it's 28, close to a triple-double. Are they vulnerable, or is Joel Embiid just that damn good that they're going to get out of the first round?
I think something that doesn't get talked about enough. I know that everybody has made a big thing about Matisse Thybulle. Matisse Thybulle's influence on the Sixers is not the same as James Harden and Joel Embiid. And a name that you didn't bring up was Tobias Harris.
And Tyrese Maxey has played a big role too.
Tyrese Maxey has played well all season in year two. I think that the Sixers, even before the Harden trade, were really solid. I think they gave up what Brooklyn needed, and some may say it's too much. I'm teeter-totter on the fence because I feel like, the Nets wanted Tyrese and they wasn't trying to give that up and they didn't get it. But I think a lot of folks are not aware of what Nick Nurse has done with Toronto this season. And the thing about Toronto that impresses me is that low-key, they're kind of like in that Golden State Warriors spot where they're veterans and they've been there. Van Vliet has been there. Siakam has been there. Like I watched them struggle at the beginning of the season and then kind of just level up. When I looked at the NBA standings, I thought Cleveland was going to stick it out, and Toronto was going to falter, and it was actually the reverse. Yep. I thought Charlotte was going to be a neck and neck with Cleveland, but Charlotte kind of dwindled a bit. But when I look at Toronto and what they've done, I really think that they can compete with the 76ers. I just think that we as East Coasters have this bias that these kind of like how in football we just expect the Cowboys to finally make it one year and it never happens. So like, and in baseball with the Yankees, like I feel like it's not a foregone conclusion that it's going to be the Sixers or the Nets in the finals. We saw that last year with the Bucks. Yep. And so like you look at the Toronto Raptors, like I look at the Denver Nuggets, like those two teams that can compete. Nobody saw the Bucks coming, and I think you gotta like pay attention to those sleepers. And I think Toronto is one of those sleepers.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that one going either way. I really think this series will go far for James Harden to get a monkey off his back because yes, he did lead the Houston Rockets to a Western Conference Finals, but people will talk about how he probably should have won that Western Conference Finals. And he's just been plagued by he can't do it in the playoffs. And now he doesn't have to be the guy, which is exactly what he wanted when he went to Brooklyn. He did not want to have to be the guy. This is clearly Joel Embiid's team. He is clearly just a distributor. And Tobias Harris is usually relied upon just as much as him to score points as well. So he's looking to dish it out more than anything. I really think this could be a big series for him to get a monkey off his back. But, man, it's hard to bet against Van Vliet and just how much he has become such a great player so quickly, from reserve to superstar very quickly. And, maybe big star, not superstar yet, but, man, he's unbelievably skilled. Now, we're going to jump to two teams that you definitely mentioned, the Bucks and the Bulls. This is probably my favorite matchup of the playoffs right here. The Bucks and the Bulls. I absolutely love everything about this matchup. You have the defending champs. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is, you said LeBron James is the best player on the planet. Antetokounmpo has something to say about that. So does Kevin Durant. They're all fighting for that position right now. Brook Lopez is back for them, which he was gone for a long time. He has his sea legs back. Bobby Portis played really well in his stead. He's there. You have the dirtiest player in basketball, Grayson Allen, there, but he's a talented player. He's dirty, but he is talented. Drew Holiday's good. Chris Middleton is fantastic. That's a really good team. And then over on the Bulls, DeMar DeRozan was an MVP candidate. Zach LaVine is a stud. Alex Caruso dunks on everything he sees apparently this year because he's a monster with it. He's just balling out. Vucevic. You have a really good matchup here. I could see this one being very similar to how it went down with Milwaukee, Brooklyn last year, where it could be a toe on the line difference for who wins this series. What do you got here?
I really like the Bulls' chemistry, as you know, with my partnership with a frames company, because I'm not currently under contract, so I can't say names. But particularly with this particular team, I've been able to just see the growth over time. Particularly when you had the Levines, the Ryan Arcidiaconos, the Kobe Whites, and just to see where they've developed over the last couple of years. I really dig their premise. I saw Kobe White about a month and a half ago, and I said to him, yo, what's the difference between last year and this year? He said, shit, playing with 3 All-Stars. And like, rolled off his tongue, and it's like I remember when you were a rookie and you were going into year one and playing in North Carolina, just the coming of age. I really respect it. But the thing about the Bulls that kind of was disappointing towards the end of the season is like they sputtered a bit, and the Grayson Allen colliding with Alex Caruso, and I'm putting it lightly by saying that changed.
That's friendly. That is very nice to put it that way.
Lonzo Ball being out definitely changed some things. And it's interesting because, as you know, like January of last year, I was, in February of last year, I was sharing how, the Bulls were in the hunt for Kobe White, we're in the hunt for Lonzo Ball, and he found his way there in the free agency, and the Pelicans wanted Kobe White, and I'm glad that the Bulls stayed fervent in their approach and keeping him because he's being utilized mightily. But Levine's knee is another portion that's very interesting to me. Moving forward, and particularly this year as he's looking at next steps in his career. He got the sneaker contract with New Balance, and he's done all the things the right way. I don't want to sell him short. I've watched him over the years. I'm really pleased with his success, and I tell him that offline, in arenas and more. But the matchup with the Bucks, I think, is interesting because I've always said this: to be the champ, you have to beat the champ. And I know that one of the things that the Bucks have always counting, the thing that people always criticize about this Bucks team is they feel like had Kyrie not gotten hurt, had Harden not gotten hurt, the Nets would be the champs last year. But shoulda, coulda, woulda is a thing that we can't do because, if my aunt was my uncle, she'd have man parts and she doesn't. So I think when you look at the Bucks and the Bulls, I can just tell you their chemistry. Like I can tell you earlier this week, I just got back from Chicago. Earlier this week, they were at this restaurant in downtown Chicago called Maple and Ash, and they got great food. And they had this private room, and they watched the play-in tournament earlier this week, and just really bonded over just basketball. And I kind of feel like this rest they used to their benefit. I was actually at the practice center like a day later, and those guys were in the gym putting up extra shots. It's a close matchup. It's not exactly Knicks close, but it's close enough. I think there are some other matchups that are interesting. Bobby Porter's being a former Bull. Robin Lopez, Brooke Lopez's twin brother playing for the Bulls. And there are some other storylines there. But I definitely think that this matchup, I know in Chicago, they've already kind of already forecasted that it's over. And if I'm the Bulls, I take that personally.
Certainly, you certainly should, considering that they have an MVP candidate on their roster. DeMar DeRozan is a bona fide MVP candidate, has played unbelievably well. So the slight there shouldn't be. Now we're going to jump into the last matchup. Another fun matchup, and one that I'm very biased to. I know David's biased too, and I think you're partially biased too, even though you're a professional, and you're going to keep it professional as you always do. But the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets, I think, got a bad taste in their mouth. Not because they beat them last year in the playoffs, so that's that. But because Jason Tatum dropped 50 on them. not too long ago and beat them. I'm not going to give too much of my opinion because I'm biased. I'm thinking Brooklyn's winning because I'm a Brooklyn fan. But what do you feel about this matchup? Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart coming up against KD, Kyrie, and everyone's saying Ben Zion coming back game 4 through 6. If it gets that far, I'm not going to include Ben. I'm going to include Bruce Brown as the member of the big three there. So what do you see going on with this matchup?
Well, first of all, I like the matchup because of the additional storylines. We know about Kyrie playing for the Celtics. Yep. We also know about Ime Udoka being a former Nets assistant and finding his way as a head coach with the Boston Celtics. But also, I really respect the Celtics' grind this season because they were on the outside looking in. And really and truly, when I look at the Celtics over the last couple years, COVID has ravaged that team and, has still had a lasting impact, particularly with, Jason Tatum using an inhaler and some of those other things. But and then we saw in the playoffs last year with the water bottle, and we saw Kyrie Irving doing the Michael Jackson "I'm bad" on the Celtics logo, moonwalking. Yeah. And it's crazy because sources say that the one time people caught him, he did it the whole game, and they just caught him on camera that one time. So, I know Kai wants to look past the whole, Nets Celtics rivalry and specifically his experience there, but I'm interested to see it, and I'm also interested to see it from a Nets perspective because of Bruce Brown, as you mentioned. I look at Bruce Brown as important to the Nets as Alex Caruso is for the Bulls, because you got guards playing forwards, and defensively, both Caruso and Bruce have done a good job locking down defenders on the opposite team. Oh, yeah. To keep it Nets. Yeah, I do like Bruce Brown. I'm expecting to see Bruce and Marcus Smart get a little chippy at times, just verbally. They just seem like the type of personalities that would clash. As it relates to Ben Simmons, I got a phone call today, so I'll watch what I say. But what I will say is, as it relates to Ben, I've heard different versions of the story. I've heard he's not practice at all since he got there. I've heard he's only done individual drills. I've been in the room with Steve Nash where he said he can't even do this or that. You saw a tweet that I put out that went viral the other day about somebody asking him what he's doing with his life. And then he's got a swag and he's walking around like he's Jordan. The answer to the question the answer to that statement and or question that you had is, at this point, I don't know. I know that some of my other colleagues and peers have said he could come back between games 4 and game 6. If I take the person at their word that, he hasn't played yet, it's going to be interesting whether he does, so the blessing and the curse of talking to multiple people is you come away with something different. And that's what I got. But as it relates to the series at large, I do expect this to go 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, I can agree that it's going to go 6 or 7 because you have, honestly, the way I look at it, you have 2 established superstars, 2 of the best players of all time, one of them being in the top 75, one of them not being in the top 75 in Kyrie, which is a big joke. But, you have 2 established guys, and then you have 2 budding superstars in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who are still in there. Jason Tatum has established himself. Jaylen Brown, I think, still has a little more work to do, has established himself. I think he's got fallen into the CJ McCollum, the Bradley Beal when, he was playing with John Wall, that second star role. But man, Jaylen Brown's he's a bad man. So he's another guy you got to watch out for. I think I think it's going to be, because it is a series, what the role players do in this matchup. What does Bruce Brown do? Can Seth Curry and Goran Dragic stay healthy long enough? Is Patty Mills going to hit his threes? Andre Drummond. And then on the other side, What's Al Horford going to do? Because Williams isn't there for, I don't know if he's playing at all this series, Robert Williams, Grant Williams, Derek White. There's a lot of important things going on. I think the other guys are going to be a bigger factor until crunch time comes in the winning time in the fourth quarter, they're superstars, but getting to that point. So who do you got? Gun to your head. Are you going Brooklyn or are you going Boston?
Well, I don't play with guns, but I like Brooklyn.
All right. So we got that. Dave, chime on in here. Eastern Conference. What's your impressions? What do you got?
I do agree that the Bucks Bulls matchup is the most interesting, even though I will say, especially speaking about the Boston Brooklyn matchup, that can be really damn good, especially with the numbers. Tatum, Brown, KD, and Kyrie can just drop it any night.
Because Brooklyn ain't a 7 seed. That's why. That's the realistic thing. Brooklyn's not a real 7 seed. So
yeah, well, hey, you're the seed. You're the record that you say you are.
That's true.
But I mean, the Bucks Bulls series should be a lot of fun. And I mean, just the issue is Giannis is a terrifying individual. I mean, you feel like he shouldn't hit threes at times when he do it, but then he does it because he really is that damn good. And just one final thing, also someone who I think is that damn good is Joel Embiid. Honestly, I would like him to be MVP. He's an absolute monster down there, and I know Jokic is as well, but for me, just watching Embiid do what he does, especially from where he came from starting out in the NBA, it's incredible. It's an absolutely incredible journey just to witness.
Yeah, it's been lots of fun. And I think this playoffs there's a lot of dark horse. I think this year is more fun than usual because there's a lot of dark horse teams that we could definitely see going and doing some stuff. So Scoop, I'm going to have you look into your way forward machine, not way back machine, your a time machine going forward. What's the finals matchup? Who's our champion?
Damn.
Right on you, right now. Putting it on you.
Phoenix Suns.
Phoenix Suns, who are they playing?
The Brooklyn Nets.
And are the Phoenix Suns winning? CP3 getting his first? You
never forget your first.
I'll take that as a yes. Who do you got? Sorry, I talked over you.
I said we're talking about basketball championships, of course. Yes.
All right, David, who do you got? Who's your matchup? Who's your champion?
Oh, man, honestly, I'm feeling Suns Sixers. I'm not going to lie to you. I know it's hurtful.
It is.
I mean, obviously, I'm pulling for Brooklyn, but I'm feeling Suns Sixers. I feel like Suns are just too damn good of a team. And like I said, for my belief in Joel Embiid might be higher than it needs to be. I don't know. I just think he's that damn good. And just the rest of the team around him. The Sixers have built a pretty damn good team. So I don't know. I see them, but I think it might be the Suns as well, honestly, in the end.
So I'm going out of left field here. If Steph Curry's healthy, they get past the Nuggets and they go to the championship. I think he is playing against the Nuggets. So if Steph Curry's healthy, I think they come in and they barnstorm everyone. And I think Golden State gets there. I also think Brooklyn gets there. And champion wise, man, Durant shows that it's all about him and not Steph. And Brooklyn gets it. That's my homer take. Man, that's tough. It's tough to predict. It's a fun playoffs this year. Scoop, any last words before we round this one out?
I heard David talking about the 76ers and their theme song came in my head as he was. I've been to a lot of Sixers games. Can
you sing that for us? For the people that don't know, I want to hear you sing it.
Everybody, Philadelphia. 76ers, 10, 9, 8, 76ers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Sixers. 10, 9, 8, 76ers.
I mean, that is a lot better than the stupid Eagles fly on the road to like. That sounds like a friggin' Russian war song. Maybe I shouldn't make a Russian joke. I'll talk about another Eastern European nation, not Russia. Ain't a good time to talk about Russia. But anyway, Scoop, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's always a long show, but it's always a great show. And I just want to drop before we go right now, as we sit Hawks are up 104.99 to the Cavaliers, 13.7 left. It's 10:09 on the 15th of April. So I'm just giving you that so we get the timestamp here. We might be right about the Hawks. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Scoop, you can catch him over, Bally Sports Network, Stadium. He's doing his NBA Insider stuff. Go listen to him on Spotify Live Thursdays at 4. Look for him on Instagram. Scoop, what are your social media handles so people can go find you? Because Scoop is a fun follow. He's an inspirational man too. You drop those inspirational quotes too.
Thank you. Scoopy on everything. Scoopy on Twitter, Scoopy on Instagrams, Facebook.com/Scoopy, YouTube, search Scoopy. It's all there. And checking me out at Bally Sports, as he said. We're dropping a new show on Monday, and it'll be on Monday through Friday throughout the playoffs. It's called I should know it. I'm looking at my Instagram because I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head. Last Night Tonight. So we'll analyze, me and Kelsey Nicole Nelson. She's DC based. We will analyze the games the night before, and it debuts Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And we give it a test run. So doing that, and a lot of cool things coming down the pike, but stay tuned. Scoopy on Twitter and Instagram is where you can get the cavalcade of Scoopy experiences.
And just remember, if you listen to this show, Scoop has absolutely no sources. He don't talk to no one. He's nowhere. No one talks to him. He's just one of those other Twitter dudes that are making guesses and hopefully right every once in a while.
I make shit up.
David, you got anything final to say before we close out here?
No. Actually, no, I do have one thing.
Hey, what did you say? No, get out of here.
Timberwolves are busy. And Scoop, if you weren't going to say that, I was, because that was one of the funniest things I've seen on Twitter just happening every time.
Why is it funny to you?
It was just just seeing it consistently happen and just seeing you say it consistently. It just became like some sort of meme for me that was amazing to watch. Because it's just like, I love it.
You can find Timberwolves are busy t-shirts over at Wooter Apparel. Just search Timberwolves are busy on Twitter, on Google. It'll be all the stuff coming up.
I might have to cop one.
Ordering in my store at Wooter Apparel. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, everybody. As for me, I got nothing to say. It's always a fun time bringing Scoop on. I always appreciate him taking the time out to jump on, and you'll be back. Don't worry, Scoop. And that is a threat. You will be back. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars. If you like us on Spotify, iTunes, spread this word of mouth, and go search the Alex Cuesta Show wherever you can find any social media. Everybody, thanks so much for listening. See you later.